Hello? Is anybody home?
Silence. She shivered. It was unusually cold in here, as if someone had left a window wide open.
Hello? Anybody here?
Nothing. The air was still, dense and musky, as if the room could do with a good airing. This was consistent with what she'd learned. Nobody had lived there for a while. Rachel knew she was trespassing. She had absolutely no business being there, but she brushed the thought aside. She was on a mission now, one sanctioned by her own sanity. She needed to know what the noises were all about, since she was unable to reconcile these to the fact that the place was supposed to be empty.
Hello?
She shouted belligerently, almost annoyed that nobody was answering her. Still nothing. So she stepped forward, slowly advancing into the lounge. She was wearing training shoes, which meant that her tread was quiet, but for the wood floor that creaked nerve-janglingly loud as if protesting against her intrusion. The lounge was ablaze with daylight, as there were no curtains at the picture windows, nor blinds on the balcony doors, leaving the sun to shine, intermittently, on a dazzling collection of white dust sheets that occupied the space, like sleepy ghosts.
Is anybody home?
No, there were no feuding neighbors, just floating dust particles. Rachel sighed deeply as she surveyed the rest of the room, half expecting one of the dust sheets to jump out at her and yell, "Surprise!" It didn't. The room was empty but for the outlines of what Rachel could identify as a corner unit, a side unit, and a coffee table surrounded by 2 double sofas and an armchair. Could she really have imagined that row yesterday, and the noises this morning? Of course not. But she reasoned that the sounds could have come from any of the apartments, not necessarily this one. Really? Is that how you're going to sell this to yourself? She knew that the sounds had come from the apartment directly above her. This apartment. Yet she couldn't see any indication of that. It was clear that the place was empty and, judging from the dust, had been that way for a few weeks now. Creak. She spun around, just as the room was plunged into shadow as the sun was swallowed up by a black cloud. She swore, throwing her hand to her mouth as if to stifle a scream, when her own reflection in a large wall mirror made her jump. It was the only thing in that room that wasn't covered. Jesus Christ. She laughed, nervously, but her smile disappeared when her disheveled, washed-out look gawked back at her. Now that is scary, she thought, whilst admiring her bravery for leaving the house without a scrap of makeup. It was something she'd never done before. Must be love, she thought with a big smile. She moved closer to the mirror and proceeded to tuck runaway strands of hair under her cap, but froze as hot and cold shivers slithered down her back and curled into a knot in her stomach. There, in the mirror, she could see not just her reflection, but also that of the armchair behind her, and there, quivering under the dust sheet, was the unmistakable outline of a person. Incapacitated with fear, she could do nothing but watch whoever it was as they sat perfectly still, but for the billowing of the white fabric as they breathed in and out. In and out. Rachel's whole body began to tremble as the breath froze in her mouth. She willed her body to move, to run, scream, but she was paralyzed. And then, slowly, and to her absolute horror, the profile shifted as the outline of a head slowly turned to look in her direction.